Why We Are Christians. My name is Kent Philpott, and this is a conversational interview with someone, and that someone is Dan Morena. Now let's start from the beginning. Give us your full name.
My name is Daniel Peter Morena.
Morena.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And where'd you get that name from?
Got it from my father.
Okay.
My Italian father and my Italian mother. I'm first generation American. They both came over from Italy as children.
Oh, they did?
And they met in North Beach. Yeah.
Where in Italy were they from?
My father was from the ankle of the boot in Italy, which is way down south of Naples.
Okay.
And my mother was from a little piece of Italy that went into Switzerland like this.
Oh,
so
yes.
Switzerland all around it, but
Okay.
So she was a fair-skinned northern Italian. My father was a dark-skinned southern Italian.
Okay. And you're somewhat in between.
It's somewhere in between. Yeah.
All right. So you were born in Marin or San Francisco?
I was born in San Francisco, and we moved to Marin when I was about 2 or 3 years old.
Okay.
Built a house. Dad built a house out in Sleepy Hollow.
Okay.
And life pretty much started there.
Okay. What did your dad do?
My dad was a physical education teacher, a coach, a counselor, and then eventually ended up vice principal and became principal of the high school he first attended when he came here from Italy.
What high school was?
Galileo High School in San Francisco.
Galileo High School. He was
Yeah.
principal.
Yeah,
So you're following in your father's footsteps in a lot of ways.
very much so, yeah.
Yeah. How about siblings, brothers, sisters?
I had 2 brothers. My oldest brother, Jim, is still alive. He's 14 years older than I am.
Okay.
And we had a middle brother, Rick, who had muscular dystrophy that came on when he was about 7 or 8 years old. And he was only supposed to live till he was about 11. And we were very fortunate to have him until he was 21 years old.
21. Okay.
Yeah. It was quite a family. We always used to joke, if we could put the 3 of us into one child, we would have had an academic All-American. Because my oldest brother had all the muscle.
Okay.
My brother Rick, who passed away, 4.0.
Really?
And me, I was quicker than everybody, so I could run away from anything.
Where did you go to high school then?
I went to Drake High School.
Oh, good old Drake.
But if it's all right with you, I'd like to go back just a bit because there's a timeline that happened there. My middle brother, Rick, passed away in 1970. And so for the first 12 years of my life, everything was wonderful, perfect. I couldn't have asked to be in a better family, didn't want to be in another family. But this was kind of the first chink in the armor, if you will. My brother passed away in 1970. My brother Rick was my mother's world. He was in a wheelchair from 11 to 21, basically. So her whole world was taking care of him, taking him here, bathing him, doing all the little things that he needed to have done. So when he passed away, kind of her purpose for life started to sink a little bit. She stopped driving, and she was diabetic. So I could start to see her decline slowly. And then in 1982, the year I graduated from Dominican College, she passed away.
Okay.
After spending a few years in a convalescent hospital because we could no longer take care of her for various reasons. And right after, in 82 there, I had met a girl at Dominican, a Swiss girl, and I had a job all set up in Wiesbaden, Germany. I was going to be teaching dependents of our Defense Department soldiers over there, and tax-free money and all this stuff. But I had a decision to make at that time. And the decision was basically, did I want to leave my father right now knowing Mom had just left, or did I want to go out and do my own life? So I asked my girl, and I said, is there any way you can come here? And she was, I'm grateful for this, she was very honest and said, I can't leave my family here. We have this going on, that going on. I said, I understand, no problem. After my brother's passing and seeing what was going on with my mother, about 8 months later, Dad moved us from Sleepy Hollow down to Larkspur.
To where?
Larkspur.
Larkspur, okay. So then you're going to Redwood.
So then I went my 8th grade year down there. Okay. Got to meet kids before I got into Redwood my freshman year. But I made a lot of friends there and everything. That was never a problem, but it was a different environment than what I was used to at the time. So I sought out a transfer to go back up to Drake, and that's exactly what I ended up doing.
Okay.
And one of the best moves of my life.
Okay,
back then.
Back then.
So I had to choose between football and basketball, basically. So I decided to go with basketball. Because there was another fellow at Drake at that time who was a senior that was shorter than I was, and he was running the ball club and doing a great job of it. I thought, okay, there's my role model. I can do this.
Okay. So you did basketball, and I think you told me you did baseball too.
Well, baseball and soccer I did. I did soccer my freshman year at Redwood, and I did baseball as well prior to that. And I think I was telling you soccer and baseball were my 2 best games.
Okay.
But I gave them both up because the girls all went to the football and the basketball games. So
you gave up baseball and soccer for the ladies.
I did.
Okay, because they went for the football players.
They were at all the football games and all the basketball games. And
what's your position with football? What position did you?
I was a running back.
You're running back?
Yeah, I was very difficult to get a hold of. I was
Yeah.
very quick, and I could kill you in maybe the first 12 yards, and then all of a sudden those big legs of somebody else would catch up to me, and I'd get smoked. It's like that. So it's basically running for my life most of the time. It's also why I picked basketball, because they say basketball is a contact sport, but football is a collision sport. A little difference there going on. I might have added a few more years to my life doing that. So.
And during that era, the equipment wasn't as advanced as it is today.
No. But neither were the injuries.
No.
Interestingly enough.
That's true. Yeah. You ended up graduating from Drake, and then where'd you go?
Well, as I said, at that point, I thought I was going to be going into, I'm sorry, we spoke about this earlier. I thought I was done with school at that point. I'd had it up to here with school and homework and everything else. And so I had a family friend get me an interview at this bank on Terraville out in the Sunset District.
Okay.
I was a shoo-in. All I had to do was basically breathe and tell them I wanted the job.
Yeah.
I got there for the interview, and I'd been thinking about it for a few days, and I said to my father, Dad, I think I want to go back to school. And that surprised the heck out of me. I never thought I'd want to go back to school after what I had been through. So suffice it to say, I went in and I threw the interview.
You did it, yeah.
I did. I let them know that I was very interested in learning and very interested in this job, but I was probably going to go back to school at some point.
Yeah, so they weren't, yeah.
I got a nice handshake and a big smile. And
yeah. Oh, you went to Dominican?
I went to College Marin first.
College of Marin.
To take care of all the general requirements that didn't cost anything.
Right.
And actually spent 3 years there because I couldn't go the full-time route because I was also working in a recreation department and supplementing income that way.
So you had 3 years at College Marin.
Yeah.
And then you went to Dominican.
And then I had no idea I was going to be going to Dominican. A friend of mine's father, who happened to play in a band with me, was the director of admissions. And I happened to see him about 3 weeks before school was going to start in the fall. And he said, "You ever given any thought to going to Dominican?" I said, "No, I haven't even really been back there. I don't even know what it looks like. I don't, you know, my world doesn't go back that way or whatever." And he said, "Why don't you come up for a meeting at a friend of ours' house? And, you know, it's just kind of an orientation meeting, see if you like it." And I went, and sure enough, it sounded like a really great place. It was small, it was close by. I could stay at school, I could stay at home, you know, whatever was called for, I could do then. And so that's what I ended up doing.
So what major?
At that time, it was called movement education.
Movement?
Education.
Movement education.
Which was the big buzzword in the 1980s. It was where everything in physical education was headed. So it was physical education plus.
Okay, physical education plus.
Yeah, you might say. They don't even have it as a major up there anymore.
Okay.
But it was the way education was going in physical education, a lot of guided exploration, things like that.
So you finished up that and you probably had I know you became a teacher. You're a teacher now, and you had an extra year or so for that.
Yeah, my junior and senior year, I ended up being captain of the school basketball team there.
I played basketball in that Dominican gym.
Yeah, the barn.
Yeah.
The barn. You can't
Yeah.
shoot it with too high of an arc. You hit the ceiling.
Right.
So yeah, I spent 2 years playing basketball there, and then right into the credential program right after graduation. Got started right into that. Again, a very small program, so I was able to do my student teaching over at Ross School, where I was working with the Ross Recreation Department. So it kind of was the same kids, and I was there anyways. And so oftentimes I would get my own classes, not scheduled just to me. I was like an aide, but here, would you take this class and do this with them? Yeah, okay, so I would do that. And
so teaching and you're interested in sports, you're still coaching.
yeah,
I know you're coaching football because we were talking about it just a little while ago.
yeah,
And up at one of the big high schools in Marin County.
one of them.
I did a little baseball coaching there, and so you're at Novato and doing football, and you've done football for a long time in the county.
Yeah, let's see. Football, I've actually done the shortest time, but it's approaching 30 years. I think I'm at 27 right now, but I'm in the fourth decade. I'm like 43 years of coaching either varsity basketball or middle school basketball. I was a girls varsity basketball coach from like 1990 to 2001 with a friend of mine. And so that was a lot of fun, you know, just to supplement the regular job, just kind of like the football is now.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think I gravitated more towards football because it really requires everybody to do their assignment, or the play's not going to work.
It's a real team stuff. Real
Exactly.
Team. Yeah. That's why I like baseball.
Yeah.
It takes
You
everybody.
need everybody. That's right.
Now you mentioned that you mentioned the word band, and I know you play bass guitar because you and I play bass guitar every Sunday at
Yes,
Miller
we-
Avenue.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
You play the bass very good, and I play. I'm sort of a strummer still.
And the lead
That's
singer.
all I can do.
And the lead singer.
I can do that. So when did you start playing guitar?
Well, this is kind of going way back again. This is interesting little story. When I turned about 12, prior to my middle brother's passing, he could play the keyboard too. I remember seeing him. He couldn't lift his arms, but he'd walk his hands up to this Hammond keyboard that Dad had bought for him, and he could play it wonderfully. So my older brother bought me a 6-string guitar, and he put on the back E-A-D-G-B-E. The middle brother showed me E-A-D-G-B-E on the keyboard, and that's how I learned to tune a guitar. And then my oldest brother showed me an E, a D, and an A, And back then, that represented roughly 90% of every song that was on the radio. Those 3 chords. So I learned a lot of tunes just by learning those 3 chords.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Anyway, so I went to Drake High School and met a wonderful couple of brothers. One played drums. Their father was the director of admissions at Dominican. I mean, we were all right there, so they were going to Dominican. So we were like the house band at Dominican, and I ended up getting onto the bass because nobody else could play it. It was kind of just by default. So,
by default?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and now I like it. It's 2 less strings to worry about.
What kind of music did you play, Dan?
We played a lot of rock and roll, but a lot with the British influence. We liked, the Beatles.
You like the Beatles and the
Rolling Stones and a lot of the new wave mod music that was coming out.
Oh, really?
In the late 70s, early 80s, yeah.
Okay.
They tried to recapture a lot of the stuff from the 60s, so
Sure.
we were all into it and, going to be the next big thing. And
Your parents would have been, of course, Roman Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
Were you baptized in the Catholic Church?
Yes, sir.
And you went through confirmation and...
I went through every sacrament, I think, but marriage. Yeah.
Okay, now you've never been married, Dan.
I've never been married, no.
I know that. And but you've wanted to be a couple times.
Yeah, I still want to be.
You still want to be.
Yeah, sure.
Good for you. All right, Dan. Good for you. Yeah, you and I have been friends for a long time now.
We have.
A long time.
We have.
Always appreciated it. It's funny, this is the first time we've had an opportunity because you're so busy. But
Almost as busy as you.
Caught you in the summertime when you didn't have to be somebody, but as soon as we finish here, you're going to coach.
Yeah,
That's
right.
why we started early today.
That's right, yeah.
To get you here, okay. So tell us about how you thought about God and all of that stuff.
Okay, well, like I said, coming from an Italian Roman Catholic background, we did everything by the book. I can still remember in the early days seeing the priest with his back to the congregation, speaking up to the altar like that in Latin, and me being 3-4 years old, whatever it was, going, when's it time to leave type of a thing. And I can remember how grateful I was when they turned and faced us and started speaking English. I could finally figure out what was going on up there all this time. It wasn't just holding on to Dad's fists and walking into this big quiet place, So,
Were you an altar boy?
No, I never was an altar boy.
You never got to be one? Okay.
No.
Okay.
Most of the altar boys were kids that went to the parish school and whatnot.
Okay.
And I was a public school kid, so I went through the catechism classes and
Okay.
through confirmation and first communion. And
Which church did you go to?
we were at St. Rita's Church.
St. Rita's.
Out in-
Okay.
When I lived in Sleep
Fairfax.
Hollow. And when we moved down to Larkspur, I then went through confirmation, as they call it, at St. Patrick's Church.
At St. Patrick's
In
in Larkspur.
Larkspur, yeah.
Okay. So, well, here you are, Dan. So, what did you think that Christianity was? Did you ever come to a place where you started to get an idea what this is about?
I always knew the story, but it wasn't like the meaningful thing it is for me today. Back then, there's a line from a song, God was fists you took on Sunday, which meant nothing more than grabbing hold of your parents' hand and they just led you into the church, and that's what happened. That was church. That was God. That was what it was all about. I had no sense of it, except for, like I said, I needed to do this so I could get ready for my first confession. I needed to do this so I could get ready for my first communion. I needed to do this for confirmation, and that all required catechism classes, which happened after school on like a Tuesday or something like that, or whenever I don't even remember now. And so that was life pretty much for most of my life. And then as I go back to when my mother passed away and decided to stay with my father, I'm so glad I did that because my father was alive for another 8 years till 1990. And he passed away in my arms as I was trying to save him. He weighed 240 pounds. And I was staying someplace else that night, and I came home and said, "How you doing, Dad?" "I don't feel too good today." I said, "You want me to call the hospital or call the doctor?" No, don't do any of that.
Did he have a history of any medical issues?
Yeah, he'd had a bypass 20 years earlier.
Okay.
One of the first ones around here. So, long story short, he finally says, "Yeah, go ahead and call the doctor." So I go to call, and they said, "Well, why don't you bring him in?" I said, "Better yet, why don't you get him to the emergency room?" Turned around, Ted slumped over in the chair. So now, my first thought is I got to get him to the hospital. He had specifically directed me not to call 911. I don't know why, but somehow I felt I had to honor that wish.
Mm-hmm.
We had to go down 2 steps of a porch and then 10 steps down to the carport. To this day, I don't know how I did it, but I took a 240-pound man in a chair and got him down to that carport, only to watch him slip out of the chair. By then, I saw a neighbor call 911. I start to work on him. Fire department's down the end of the block. They're here in 2 minutes. They were able to get his heart going again, but he never regained consciousness.
Really? Never
Yeah.
regained consciousness?
So for the next 5 days, I went to Marin General Hospital. Was kind of just waiting. And then there was something that happened with me. I had been going through an illness. And it just dawned on me that the last night there, I wonder if he's sticking around because he's worried about me. That's just like my father. He would have done that. So he was still unconscious, and I went up to him the last night, and I whispered into his ear, and I said, "Dad, if you need to go, I'll be all right." That was about 8 o'clock. At 4 o'clock in the morning, the phone rang. Phone never rings at that time in the morning. I knew exactly what it was.
Sure.
Picked up the phone. "Do you need me there now?" "No, relax. You can come at 8 o'clock. You should probably call the funeral director."
Yeah.
That's what started it. So that's 1990. This is important because there's a decade, 1990 to the year 2000. Now, I have a girlfriend at that time who's a Christian Scientist, completely unfamiliar with it.
You didn't know what that was.
Didn't mean a thing to
Yeah.
me. But I've got this ailment going on. Her mother says to me, "Have you ever gone to a Christian Science practitioner?" "Well, what's that?" "Well, they use Christianity in its scientific form, and you can be healed of this." I said, "Wow. It must cost a lot of money or something, huh?" $20, $25 for about an hour and a half. Go in, see what it's like. I said, "Okay." I went in there, started going to the Christian Science Church up Camino Alto.
Oh, yes.
Did it for about a year and a half.
I remember that. I remember.
Did it for about Did it for about a year and a half. Went into that church one day, and this was the beginning of my conversion experience. I'm certain of it now, looking back. I walked in, and in the Christian Science Church, they have words of Jesus. Parallel to that, on this other wall, they have the words of Mary Baker Eddy.
Mary Baker Eddy, yeah.
And all of a sudden, I was offended. "What are you doing up there next to Jesus?" And I walked out of that church, and I never went back.
You told me that story many years ago.
Now, here's the next part that was really funny to me, because I'm just going, okay, now what am I going to do? All I got's rock and roll. I work as a teacher and a coach during the day, and rock and roll at night. Oh, well, I guess this is what I'm doing. I'm doing it. I'm not happy. Things aren't going the way I thought they might have gone. So we're approaching the year 2000. And I thought to myself, no, I had prayed to God. I said, God, I've spent these last almost 10 years kind of on my own. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know if I can make it. So it was New Year's Eve, and I was getting phone calls, 7:30, 8:30 that day. Hey, Morena, you coming out? We're going out to so-and-so to celebrate the New Year's. For whatever reason, I can't do it tonight, you guys. No, I'm just not, I can't do it tonight. I set it down, and I said, good Lord, I can't go through another 10 years like I just went through. Please, God, save me. At that moment, I knew my sinfulness had become exceedingly sinful. You've said that phrase before, and to me, to all of us in church. But at that moment, all of a sudden, there it was. Something you were going to say in the future to me showed up. And it was as clear as could be. I fell down into my living room rug face first, bawling my eyes out. I looked at the clock, it was 5 to 12. Crying out, Lord, save me, please save me. Blubbering, couldn't stop. Well, heard the fireworks going off, everything. Well, we're in a new millennium now, the year 2000. I laid on the floor there, kind of wiping my tears, still facing the ground. At some point, I dragged myself up and got into bed, woke up the next morning. I didn't feel any different at all. A couple days going by like that. Oh, well, I know the Lord hears prayers. And then I'm flipping through the TV, and I landed on the Bible study.
You're kidding.
No.
I didn't know this.
And the first thing that amazed me about it was I made it through the whole half hour. To the point where it said, if you want to talk about anything, call Kent Philpott at this number. I wrote that number down. I put it away. Now, I didn't understand it at the time. Looking back now, I can see the Holy Spirit at work here.
Yeah.
Okay?
Dan, we gotta close this one out.
All right.
Wow, I never knew that story. I never knew. All right, we've reached the end of the program. This is just the first of two. Be looking for another episode of Why We're Christians, and we'll hear the rest of the story from Dan Morena. So long.